welcome back. I hope the CSS Zen Garden was pretty fun to look through. There was a lot of really inspiring designs here. Like the color of this one, you know. Some of these other ones are pretty good too. Make them proud. Let's take a look at that one, right? Kind of a Boy Scout theme. So there's a lot of really great ideas, right? And people are doing a lot of creative stuff. Like these are actually those buttons, right? So you can see these are the icon, or they look like icons here, right? So here's the CSS for this page, or the CSS validator. Here's the HTML validator, right? I forget what this link is, right? Creative Commons license. So these links, actually, if I go to, let's see here, let's go to, let me go to the previous set of designs and find another one. Let's go to this one right here. So those links that we saw there are actually the links over here in the corner on this one, right? So those are off to the side here. So these are the same links, right? But they're instead here they're shown as text, right? So people are doing a lot of creative stuff with this, and they're all doing it through CSS. So my challenge to you now is that you will create your own CSS Zen Garden page, okay? So let's talk about how you're gonna do that, right? For the first assignment, we're just gonna worry about styling the typography and just getting started with the page and getting a feel for how it works, okay? To do that, you're gonna download the HTML for the page, and you can do that by looking for the download example HTML file. Okay, there's a link on all the pages here because they're all the same page, right? So click on this link, and it'll download the HTML document for you, okay? I actually already have this in a page or in a folder over here, so I'm gonna go get my folder that I was working in, which is over here, class 1, lesson 1, right? And I'm gonna open this up in my, my code editor, right? So let's take a quick tour of the HTML document for the Zen Garden page, okay? So here's the document. You know, it's a typical HTML document. It's got the doc type at the top, the HTML tag, the head tag, okay? So I'll say it one more time. You're not allowed to edit the HTML document, okay? If you do need to make an edit, the only change that you can make is to change the name here for your style sheet. And actually, you don't really even need to do that because it'll say style CSS here. So if you just create a file called style CSS, it will link to your style sheet, okay? But other than that, you can't make any changes to this, okay? So no changes. The only thing you're gonna do is you're gonna add your styles to the style sheet that you create, okay? And you'll put your styles in here, okay? Let's take a quick tour of what's in the document. So if I look at the document here, you can see I've got the body tag, and they give me an ID. So I could use this ID to target the body tag, or I could just target it using the name body, okay? Second, inside the body tag, there's a div that's a wrapper, and this wrapper div goes all the way to the bottom of the page. So I think this wrapper div ends here, okay? So if I click on this guy, it's gonna give me this div at the top here, right? So these are the ones that match, okay? So I can use this class name page wrapper for that wrapper div, okay? Next, there's a couple sections. So you got to look at the section here, and the formatting is going to help you. So this section begins here, right, and ends down here. So the top section right here has a header, a div that's class summary, and then the div that's the preamble, okay? So if we look at the Zen Garden page, and I look at what's on this version of the Zen Garden page. Ooh, nice. That's kind of nice with their you know, responsive design there, right? So this section is the header, right? So this section right here contains the header, which includes the beauty of CSS, and the preamble or summary, which is a demonstration of what can be done with CSS, and then this preamble right here, which is the road to enlightenment. So the upper section right here, the intro section, all of this that I have selected is everything from here to the top of the page. Okay, so it's everything here. Okay, inside there, if you need to get to any one of the pieces that are here, you could get to this section as a group by targeting this div that's class summary. And the preamble, if we need to get to this section down here that says road to enlightenment, you can target the div that's class preamble. Okay, and then the same is true for everything else on the page. So if I look at the next section here, you can see that I've got another section that's called main and supporting. Okay, so this main supporting section goes all the way down to the bottom right here. It's before the sidebar with the links. Okay, so it includes, let's see here, what does it include? It includes, let me actually zoom out just like a little bit. Might be hard for you to read, but I can see easier that this is all of this stuff. So it's got the main supporting section, the div that's called class participation, the div that's class benefits, the div that's class requirements, and then this thing that they called the footer, and the footer is a list of those links that we saw. So the 5 links right here, HTML, CSS, CC, A11Y, and the GH link right here are these guys, right? So that's all these guys, right? Okay, so that's this block right here is called the footer, right? Okay, and then requirements. So we can see, oh yeah, and there's benefits section, participation section, requirements section, and then they had some fun with the styles, right? Okay, and then below that we have this aside, and then there's a div wrapper, and then there's some other divs and a heading, and then there's a UL with a bunch of anchor tags in it, and these are divided into 2 parts so that the LI has 2 anchors. One of them is the name of the particular Zen Garden CSS version, and then it's followed by, and then it has a link to the designer. Okay, and that in this example it would be this section here. So they've styled this with the numbers and stuff, right? Okay, and actually you'll notice the number doesn't exist there, right? So they're adding this number through CSS. Interesting, right? Okay, they use the before and after pseudo selectors, right? Okay, so anyway, so that kind of gives you like a basic overview of what's here, and you'll have to like consult the page here. You can't edit this, but consult it and then consider which CSS selector you would need to target a particular thing if you wanted to style that thing. Okay, so for example, if you want to get the H3 here, but you don't want to get this H3 up here, you could say class requirement child H3, right? Or class benefits child H3. Okay, and you know, you can get creative too. Like if you want to get just the first paragraph here, you could do class participation nth child, or paragraph colon nth child 1, and it would get the first paragraph, right? Or you could style every other paragraph with a different style using even or odd, or you know, you can mix and match those selectors to do anything. So you really don't need to add much, right? Or there isn't really anything that you need to add here, right? You can do it all with your selectors. Okay, so for the first assignment here, you don't have to do much styles. I'm not expecting you to do something this fancy. This is super great, right? So maybe later as we move on, you can take a stab at doing something nice like this. But for right now, what we're going to do is we're just going to focus on the typography. Okay, so let's do that, right? I'm going to open up my page here. So I'm in VS Code and I have live server installed. So I'm just going to click go live and it'll open up my HTML page in the browser like that, right? Live server is kind of nice because if I make an update to the document, it'll automatically refresh over here. So that kind of makes for an easy workflow. Okay. So I've created the Zen Garden page. I've linked it to my style sheet. So I got my style sheet here. And now I'm just going to add some styles. So let's talk about a couple styles that we want to add. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to add a comment at the top, right? And what we want to do is just start with some basic typography. If you can make good looking type, that's actually enough to make a good looking web page. Okay. After that, if we want to add some color and some layout, then that's going to be icing on the cake. But if we make really good looking typography, our people will really like your web page. Okay. The typography that comes default with HTML doesn't look that great. Okay. So this does not look that great. This has really nice typography. This typography is weak. Okay. So we're going to fix that. So here are the properties that I want you to work with. Color, which is the foreground color. Font family, which is the typeface. Font size, which is the size of the type. Line height, which is the space between lines. Okay, so the line height is like between these two lines right here. Okay, and you can see it may not sound like much, but actually this is harder to read for people because the lines are too close together. Notice over here, the lines are a little further apart and it's just a nicer experience to read, right? There's a little more space there, right? It's not much, but it's enough to make this look nicer than what we see here, okay? And then the fourth or fifth property is font weight, okay? So there's all our font properties. And here is the color. So this is the foreground color. It will be the color of the text. Okay. We'll talk about background color and background images later, and you can use that if you want, but not required for this assignment. Okay. Use these 5 properties. Let's talk about it for a minute. So usually when we're working with CSS, we need a strategy. Okay. So the best strategy that I think is to use broad strokes at first. So just to style, all the things that share a style them all at once, right? At the beginning. And then work yourself down to the details, right? Work your way into the specific elements. This is better than targeting one element and styling it, and then targeting one element and styling it, and then working your way up to the whole page, right? So for example, like the last thing I want to do is style this heading, and then style this heading, and then style this heading, right? What I want to do is I want to style all the fonts on the page all at once. And then I want to style the basic line height for everybody on the page. And then I want to style the headings. And not just one heading, I want to style all the H3s, and the H1 and the H2, right? Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, we can use our selectors. So I'm going to use the body selector. So the body is the parent element for everything on the page, right? And if we put a font style on this, all of its descendants will inherit that style, okay, or those properties. They'll inherit, right? So they'll use them. So if I put a style here, everybody will use it. So this font is Times, and it doesn't look that great. Let's change it to font family Helvetica. Okay, so I'm going to choose Helvetica. They give me this default one as Arial. I'm going to move Arial over to here because I think I like. Wait, hey, I guess I didn't copy it. Let me change it. Arial. There we go. Right, got to spell it right. So I'm going to change it to Helvetica Arial Sans Serif. When we write the font like this, the browser will use the first item on the list if it's available. And if this font is not installed, it'll move to the next item in the list. Okay, so on the Mac, we have Helvetica, and on Windows, they'll have Arial. Okay, if it doesn't have any of these, it'll use the default sans serif font, and that can be a few different things. Okay, I'm going to get more into the font stacks in a later class. So for right now, we can just choose Helvetica, or you pick a font. Okay, we'll talk about using custom fonts too coming up. So that looks pretty good. I feel like the font size here is a little bit small, so I'm going to make it a little bit larger. Okay, so I'm going to say font size of the default font size is 16 pixels. So if I choose that, you can see that the size doesn't change. But if I make it, let's say 18 pixels, you can see the page gets a little bit bigger. So that's looking okay to me. Maybe like we could do 19. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good, right? Now again, the line height here is pretty crowded, right? So that makes this kind of feel dense. It's hard to read. It doesn't have the nice quality that we have here, right? So I think I got to add a little bit of line height. Let's do that. Line height of, now let's talk about something. Actually, before we do line height, let's talk about one more thing, right? Notice that the font here for the heading is larger than the font for everything else. And it's proportionally larger. So if I change this back to 16, you can see that the headings also change size. Okay? They change size when I changed the number here. Okay? So what's happening is the default font size for your headings, H1 through 6, is set in a value called an M. So in H1, by default, I think it's like something like, 1.5 M's or 1.85 M's. So if I say font size of, 2M, right? Then you can see this H1 is 2 times the value of the base font size. So this H1 is going to inherit a font size of 19, and it's going to be 2 times that font size. Okay? So that's why these are all different sizes here, right? So the M, the unit of an M, so a pixel is the size of 1 pixel unit, the M is the size of 1 M unit, and an M is the size of the font. So in this case, 1 M would be 19 pixels, okay? So if we want to set the line height, it's a good idea to set the line height in M's, right? So if I make the line height 1M, you can see it, the text looks really crowded now, but if I make it about 1.5 M's, well, I get some space there. I don't know, let me look at that. Actually looks pretty good, maybe that's a little too much, 1.45 M's. Not bad, right? So you can pick a number here and it can be a fraction, right? So you can pick whatever you want. If I do it 0.45 M's, you can see like the text runs into each other. That's like not enough line height, right? Okay, just to show you the extremes, okay? So again, this is going to be a unit based on the font size. So if I change the font size to 16, then this will be 1.45 times 16. Let me change that to 1.5, and then we can just do the math in our head. So 1.5 of 16 would be 24, right? Because it'd be half of 16 would be 8, plus 16 would be 24, right? Okay. Does that kind of make sense? So hopefully that makes sense. And again, if I set the font size here, this would be 2 M's. It would be 32 because it would be 2 times 16. Okay. So I think that looks good. And, you can adjust this. So maybe, I want all of the H3s to be a little bit larger. So let's style them. So I'll say H3, you're all going to be font size of, and I'm going to use a different unit here just for fun. I'm going to say you're all going to be 3 rems. Okay? So a rem stands for root M. And M will always look at the parent element for its font size. And if the parent has a font size assigned to it, then the M will use that font size. A rem is a root M. Let me actually put that here, root M. Right? And a root M always goes up to the root element and looks for the font size here. So in this case, I don't have to worry that there's a parent element that might have a font size. The 3 rems is always going to be 3 times the root element of 16 pixels. Okay? So in this case, this would be 3 times 16. What would that be, like 48, right? Okay? So, I like this, but actually the size is good, but the weight is too much, like it's too heavy. So we can also set the font weight. Let's try that just for fun. So maybe I want to do font weight here, and font weight gives us a bunch of numbers. So 100 is like a lightweight font. Okay, so actually that looks kind of nice. It's got a little bit of style going on, right? You can do different numbers, 200, 300, 400. You can see like the 200 and 300 didn't change anything. It depends on the font family that you're using. So not all font families support all of the weights, right? It depends on the font. Some font faces have more weights that they support than others, but you can see this one supports 100 and 400. You could do 500, 600. Oh, the 600. Let's do like 700, 800. I wonder if it's got 900. I think it goes up to 900. So we could do 100, 400, or 600. I'm going to go with the 100 weight here, right? I kind of like this lightweight. The font weight also supports a couple keywords. So you can choose lighter, and that gives you the lightweight font. You can choose normal, which is the normal font, like the normal weight. And you can use, I forget, what is it? I forget what that last one is. Let's see, lighter, normal, unset. I guess you got to use, oh, bolder, that's it. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah, bolder, right? And that gives us our heavier weight font, okay? By default, the headings H1 through 6 are already font weight bold. Okay, so by default, they're just bold like this, right? And we can make them bolder if we want. I'm actually going to go with the lighter. Okay, so we'll go lighter like that, right? Some fonts have a second, they'll have like a light and an extra light weight, okay? You can't type extra light here, but you can get it using the numbers, okay? So anyway, so now we're starting to get some style there. So what I want you to do is consider these 5 properties right here and then apply them. And you don't have to apply them as a blanket, right? You can style different things individually, right? So maybe like I like this H1 up here, but I want to style that maybe also 3 M's, and I want it to have a heavy weight, but the color is too dark. We haven't actually styled color yet. Let's do it. So let's do color, and maybe I'll make this, let's do it like a light gray. I don't know. I don't think I like that. Let's do lighter. Let's do it. Maybe that's too light. I can't decide, right? So anyway, so it's up to you, right? So think about styling your page. Think about using the color on the font, right? I just use gray. Don't use gray, right? Always pick a color, right? So your pages are always going to look better if you choose a color. Like maybe I'll choose gray, but I'm going to give it like a little bit of blue, right? And then that kind of looks a lot nicer, right? So my challenge to you is to style everything here, okay? Use these 5 styles: color, font family, font size, font weight, line height, okay? Especially line height. I really want to see that, okay? And then go through and pick out the different things. Try and make the sections look different, right? So try and make them, make them stand out, right? You can also style the links. So these links are the anchor tags. So maybe the easiest route here is to style the anchor tag, the A tag, and give it a style. So I could say color is, let's make it fuchsia, right? I didn't put this on the list, but we can do text decoration of none, and that gets rid of the underline, which I think kind of looks nicer, right? Right, and then you can style these, you can style, here I got a challenge for you, make this link a different color from the link on the other side here, right? Use that as a selector, Make these links in select a design look different from the links in the rest of the page, right? So there's a couple of challenges, but anyway, this is your goal. Download the CSS Zen Garden page, add a style sheet, and style the typography here. Pay attention to what the type looks like. Make the type look good. Make it readable, make it look nice, right? Don't worry about the layout and some of the other things. We'll add that later, and we're going to do that in other assignments. We'll add some background images and some other things too, okay? So anyway, thanks for watching, and let me know what you think about this assignment. I'm looking forward to seeing your work, okay? And have a nice day. Okay, see you later.